Happy Friday, ladies. Thank you for joining us today for the AIM Women's Mortgage Network's Growth Series. This series is here for you to educate, inspire, and share your progress as we lift each other up to new levels. On today's episode, we have four of our WMN members that are going to share their journeys to becoming a mortgage broker, along with some insights to help you flourish. Let's meet our panelists. From California, we have Jaimini Dave. She is the broker and president of Avid Financial Group. From New Jersey, we have Tammy Leone, the president of Crown Mortgage Services. From Arizona, we have Jackie Bassett. She is the broker owner of Expert Mortgage Services. And from Illinois, we have Amy Dusa, the broker owner of Educated Investors Finance Corporation. Ladies, we are thrilled to have you here with us today. And first off, I absolutely love hearing about each of your stories. And it's so interesting to me that no two experiences are ever the same. And that's the reason why we need to give our insights because we can help other women avoid pitfalls and help them stay on track. So let's get this going. First question for Jackie. I believe you are the newest broker in the group, and we want you to share with us, why did you decide to transition from retail to working for a broker to then opening up your own company in 2020?
Well, hi, Laura. Thank you for inviting me. I feel very special to be invited and be part of this group. I literally have been open for business less than 2 months as a broker. So, and why does anybody want to do this? For the money. We want the money. We want it all. I want to make my own rules. I want to be my own boss. I'll tell you what, I needed to do this for my own growth. And here's why. You know, when I started, I got my MLO license in early 2016. And I immediately, I left corporate. I left the corporate world. I was working as a technical analyst and developer engineer at American Express. And I joined the world of lending, and I became a loan officer, and I went right into retail. Well, that was fine. I did that for about a few years, and I jumped about 3 different shops. And what I noticed was, I learned a lot and I planted a lot of seeds, but what I found was that there were all of the big producers, well, first of all, they were all dudes, okay? They were all guys, and they all had big teams, and they'd all been in the business for 14 years. I've been in it for 14 years, and I've been in it for 28 years. And so my mind was set that I got a long way to go. I got a long way to go because I don't have a team, and I haven't been, I haven't traveled this road like these guys have. So I've got a ways to go before I can be successful. So I'm planting my seeds, doing what I'm supposed to do, making the phone calls, going on the realtor tours, doing all this stuff. I get some deals. I got some deals very organically. But I tell you what, I bled through all my savings, trying to make it in the full 100% commission world. And I was just about to quit. I started to give up. It was about the beginning of 2019. And it was more that, okay, let's just give it 6 more months. And I thought, my husband and I sat down and talked. I said, maybe I'll join you as an appraiser. He'd been doing it for like 22 years. And he was like, oh God, no, I was just about to quit this and come join you, So we staged it, thought, well, let's give it a little bit more time. And then I started talking to a few people who were working at brokerages, right? And even though the retail people were like, oh, no, you don't want to go. No, you don't want to go broker. That's bad, bad, bad. And I thought, the more they try to talk you out of it, that don't protest too much sort of thing. I thought, I'm going to give it a shot. So I did. I left in July of 2019, and I went to work at a broker. And what happened was immediately the sky opened up. I saw the freedom. I saw the leverage. I saw how competitive I could be. And I didn't even tell people I was working at a broker. I never even really advertised, honestly. It just happened. And what mostly happened was when I started to meet other brokers. And I went to the AIM event in Vegas last year, right? And I'd start to talk to people, and they were very successful, but they weren't big teams and they weren't bragging about how many years they'd been in the business. And I actually finally felt like an equal. And I'd meet husband and wife teams, and they're doing their business here, and and I felt really like, wow, so the seed was planted. And I thought, you know what, I can see myself doing this for a little bit, and then I'm going to do this myself. So around February, my husband and I sat down and we staged it, and we thought, you know what, let's do this. So I scheduled for the class, I scheduled to take the test and all that for the brokerage. We went to Irvine. And when we went to the AIM event in Irvine, I started to meet with some people like the compliance company and started shopping with my own, knowing that I was going to be doing this on my own. And I met a woman who worked at UWM, and she was a business developer. And I said, what is that? What is that role that you have? And she says, oh, I help people break off and become independent brokers. And I'm like, I need your card. So I took her card, and sure enough, she was the person I called, and she, helped me go from where I was to where I am now. And the interesting thing that I noticed, and I think this will be part of like my advice to you, is when I was back in the retail world and I had my mindset that I'm not allowed to be successful until I have a big team and I've got a lot of years behind me. But as soon as I transitioned over to working at a broker, it was my own mind that I changed.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the sky opened and I attracted business, and I wasn't even saying anything. It was because I let it happen. And then when I decided to, become my own broker, and I went through all those steps, I feel a shift. I feel more empowered. I feel I'm the boss. I can make the rules. And it's working the same, even more so now that I'm attracting more and more business, and literally without advertising. I haven't even told anybody, hardly, that I've been doing what I'm doing. It's just
that's because mind, Jackie, it's almost like you're projecting that confidence, and you're projecting the fact that you can take care of those families, and you can provide them great service, and you can provide them great rates, and you can put them into whatever program fits best for them. So by pushing that out to your families and referral partners and everyone else, more is coming to you. So that makes absolute sense. And what a ride, during all of this. So that is phenomenal.
I know, right?
Awesome. All right. So Tammy, we're going to switch. Jackie's the newest broker. Now let's go to the veteran of the group.
You don't want to say the oldest, Laura?
No, we don't do that. Just the veteran of the group here. So, Tammy, obviously you've seen lots of cycles. You've seen the ups and the downs, and the time when it was great to be a broker and the time when it wasn't, and you've been there through all of those different cycles. So share with us, during that journey and all of this time that you've been a broker, what are some of the things that you've learned? Because yes, we know what market we're in at this time, but we also know that those things change all the time in our industry. So please share that.
Well, along all these years, it's like, there's so many different paths that you could really take and go down. And there's all sorts of, trainings you could take, and what you should do and what you shouldn't do, and who you should hire and who you should fire. And if you have a certain amount of people with you, they only get you to a certain level, and then, get rid of those people and replace them with other people who are going to get you to this next level. And then before you know it, rates of 5%, and, everybody's gone. Your whole team is gone. Your whole staff is gone. On the flip side of that, when things are, the way they are now, there's a lot of shift in the industry because there's a lot of poaching and people are moving around and the grass is greener on the other side, and so on and so forth. So the thing that I've learned along the way is that you have to try to be middle of the road, and keep yourself balanced and not get too caught up in like the minutia of where things are, because things can turn either way on a dime. So, for me, I just try to, work work my goals, work my path, and not get too crazy with hiring too many people or getting rid of too many people when things aren't going well, or not going well, but with rates increasing, and then things slow down, and you know how it goes. This is over the course of 27 years. So when I first started in the industry, I think the rates were around 13%, and nobody cared. So I mean, it's crazy over the course of all this time that there's always a life cycle in this business. So for me, I just think that you have to just stay your path, and don't get caught up too much in the cycles of the business. Just work your plan, and it will work for you.
I love that advice. And for one person that's a veteran like you are correct. There's always going to be change. There's always going to be variables that you may not be able to control. But you're right. Don't put too much emotion into it, right? Don't get over dramatic. It's all a cycle. It's all going to change. Just stay the course and do your proper planning to adjust to that. Wonderful. All right.
Yes.
Jay Minnie. Okay, so talk to me. We've got some brand new into the industry, some veteran experience. Now, one of these things is going along with these cycles is not just living and dying by our desk, right? There's more to that. Part of Jackie mentioned it. One of the benefits of our industry, of course, is yes, it's very profitable, and that's wonderful. And we all certainly have our added benefits of why we're in this industry. But part of that is it's great that we can be successful. But again, we don't want to die at the desk. So let's speak a little bit about how can you have that harmony between being successful and serving our families, but also serving our personal families and ourselves.
Absolutely. So I think, when I first got into the business, I, like most people, thought there's one definition of success, right? You get a nice office building, you hire all these people, you become the boss, you grow your business huge. And I think that works for many people. But I think, when you start something like this, your own company, you really have to think about what your personal goals are. And that might be owning a huge building with a bunch of people, or it might be, whittling that down to the basics and making time for, travel or, kids or, just anything that, interests you in life. I feel like I learned that the hard way. I did a lot of hiring when I first got into this business because, again, that's what I thought success meant. And I just learned over the years that for me personally, and I'm sure for, some of these women can relate, that's not everything. It kind of actually took me away from what I love about this business, originating and helping people. I found myself doing, micromanaging people, and they come to me with a ton of complaints, and that was my day was kind of taking care of those, or all the corporate stuff in the background with the NMLS. And I found myself not loving my job anymore, which was unfortunate because that's the whole reason I broke off and wanted to be, my own boss. So I think it really comes down to, and you have to let yourself know, it's going to take some trial and error to figure out your exact balance and what works for you in this business. So allow yourself to do that. And it does take time over the years to figure that out. I mean, you might hire a bunch and figure out you don't like it. And then after a while, you clean house, work from home, have no overhead. And with this business, is because you can really work from anywhere you have an internet connection. So I think that's amazing to take advantage of that. And we're a lucky industry to be able to do that.
So one further question along that line. Okay, so you start your broker shop and you realize, you know what, my strong suit is not paperwork details, or my strong suit isn't necessarily being the problem solver of everything, or the HR, whatever it is, right? What do you recommend the ladies do once they do determine, you know what, I'm an unbelievable originator. I can originate against anyone, and that's my strong suit. My strong suit isn't the other stuff. So what do you recommend? How do you get to that point, and what do you recommend the ladies do once they identify that?
Absolutely. I think the best thing that I did was to kind of whittle it down to having just a few really good people do, most of the things in the company. So at first I hired LOs, I hired a ton of LOAs, and they would bring in like a deal here and there. But after a while, it was more trouble than it was worth, and it was just taking a lot of time. So then I just kind of broke it down. Like I had a really, really good processor who took care of like all the back end stuff, so I could concentrate on originating. And then I hired, and brokers are better, have so many good resources for help with the marketing, help with the compliance. So, you can hire people to do that aren't necessarily employees, right? But they're here for you as a resource so you can concentrate on, what you're good at in the business, what you love doing, which is how I shifted, I think. And I think this group has so many good resources to be able to do that.
Awesome. Great advice. Okay, Amy. So Amy, you also came from the corporate world, and you certainly have a fascinating story of kind of where you've been and how you came here. But I'm curious on two points with coming from corporate. One, what was that pivotal moment that had you come back into the broker world? And two, what were some of the things that you learned from corporate, whether it was you learned you don't want to do it, or you learned, hey, this is great to apply, that you actually now are applying into being a broker?
Okay, the pivotal moment for me in determining when I wanted to move back into sort of self-employment was really I have two young daughters, 3 and 6 years old, and I really want to have the flexibility for them. So, like right now, I pick them up from school every day at 2 o'clock when I have them, and I wouldn't have been able to do that in the corporate world. You can't just leave in the middle of the day and pick them up. So I get to spend more time with them during the day while they're at this age, and they sort of need me more during the day. So that was sort of the pivotal moment for me. So I wanted to adjust my sort of work-life balance, and
Love
I
it.
felt like self-employment, offered me that. Some of the so there's a lot of lessons I guess I can apply from the corporate world into the sort of your self-employed, broker side. A few things I guess I would share is from a relationship perspective. Uh, in the corporate world, you have coworkers and they're working across, different departments, things like that. So on the broker side, that would translate to, your partners, your realtor partners, your title companies, attorneys, whoever you're working with, your lenders. And if you nurture relationships, when I say that, I mean you are communicating well, you're being responsive to them, you treat them kindly, it goes a long way into having them help you move things along. And um, you know sometimes if you're not nice to people, or you haven't been the best communicator or partner, they're not inclined to help you when you're in a moment of trouble. So I feel like from moving from the corporate world here, being able to communicate well and be responsive, that has been, huge here, because I've gotten actually so many referrals back from, you know, people on the other side of transactions, the seller side. They said, we really like the way you communicate, and we have some, referrals for you because we enjoy working with you. So that's done well. From an employee standpoint, being an employee at a corporation, I appreciate good, clean processes. I like technology. I like to utilize technology. I like to be able to be paid fairly for the work that I do. I like to have some kind of work-life balances, clear responsibilities. I like to have timely, paychecks. So I've incorporated all of that into sort of my business as well. Everything I do is automated. I try to pay as quickly as possible, direct deposit. I have very clear responsibilities for all the people under my staff. I try to do as much as I can to help them be more effective at their jobs. So I think that
I love that. And what's fascinating, and again, everyone has a different story, right? And everyone has come into this in different ways. The beauty of it, and I was thinking this as you were speaking, Amy, is that all of our past experiences, regardless of where we came from or it all can be applied to being a successful mortgage broker, right? And then Jamie just mentioned, luckily, thank goodness, AIM and Brokers Are Better and Women's Mortgage Network provides a way that you can share your experiences with others. And there's a network of resources and different experiences that you could say, hey, what are your thoughts? What are you doing? And be successful together. So that is wonderful. I thank you. All right, ladies, we're down to the final question of what's that one piece of advice that you want to share out there? Tammy.
Well, I would say, you know what? Don't sweat it. It could get done in the morning. We can't be all things to all people 24/7. It's like, we need some time to, decompress and to release. And it's like, you know what? If it's 9, 10 o'clock at night, shut the phone off, put on some Netflix and you deal with it in the morning. Because honestly, at the end of the day, we're not doing brain surgery. This is not a life or death situation. So we just need to learn how to, breathe and relax. So I would say you learn that over time. In the beginning, you want to be all things to all people, but you just can't.
Good advice. And I agree. In the beginning, you do think the world's going to end if you don't. So yes, totally agree. All right, Jackie, piece of advice.
Well, I have a couple things, when I want to back up a little bit on something I said, when I said my license actually went live at the end of June and the beginning of July. So while I was still working at another broker, I was getting everything set up at the new brokerage, and my husband was actually starting to do some work. So one of the hardest parts was juggling everything and making sure it was going to all come together. So I would have to lay in bed at night sometimes and not think of the mountain of tasks and putting everything together. So my advice there would be just know it is all going to fall together. I mean, it just always does. It always seems to work out the way it's supposed to, timely. And it did for me too. I was able to help him and get the company up and get the lenders and the credit and the LOS system and all this stuff. It just all falls together. So just trust that it does. But my biggest piece of advice is turn your green light on. That's what I had to do when I went from retail to the broker and then from being broker to my own brokerage. I let it happen. So don't talk yourself out of it. Don't dim your light. Turn your light on and let it work for you.
I love that. There we go. I feel like it's a book title. Turn your green light on. I love it. That is good. I got it. You're open for business, right, Jackie?
That's what it is.
All right. Awesome. Jay Minnie.
I think my biggest piece of advice when opening your own broker shop is to really just be kind to yourself. And it's going to have, I think for the first couple years, I was like, oh, I'm doing really well. And then, the next year, I'm like, oh my God, my business is a failure. But you know what? That's normal. For the first 5-10 years, it's going to feel like that. And so just be kind to yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Your business, again, you have to find what works for you. And that's going to take some experimentation. And it can feel like you're failing, but all you have to do is shift gears and try again and keep going, and it'll stabilize and it'll be wonderful. So just don't be so hard on yourself.
That is another great piece of advice, because again, the minute something doesn't go as we expect, we think it's the end of the world, right? We think, oh no, nothing's going to work out. And I would recommend, again, there is a great network here. Okay, AIM has built a phenomenal network of sometimes just speaking to someone else or connecting with someone else. I'm picturing Tammy here that's been doing this for over 20 years. I'm sure she could share lots of stories of going through cycles of it'll be okay. So you're right. Sometimes just knowing it is okay and it's normal, and you are going to have to pivot and try things and experiment, and you'll get through it. So great advice. Love it. Amy.
And Laura, if I could just jump in for a second, I just want to say that, we didn't have this type of camaraderie or a group or any of this, back in the year 700 BC when I first got into the business.
And it's like stores, right, Tammy?
Yeah, exactly. We didn't have it. It was like we didn't have any other women really to lean on. We used to have a group that we dubbed the disgruntled women of the mortgage industry, and we used to have like dinners together, and that was the extent of it. It was like 5 of us. So, I mean, shout out to you guys, shout out to AIM, shout out to this network, because let me tell you, all these women coming up and everybody who's getting into the business, whether it's their first act, their second act, their third act, it's like, I'm telling you, it's amazing. And everybody in this group is amazing. And just the camaraderie, seriously, it really, there's no words to describe it because it didn't exist before. So shout out to everybody at AIM for getting this up and going, because it is phenomenal.
Yes, 100% agree, Tammy. All right, Amy, bring it home. What's that piece of advice?
My piece of advice, and this is because I didn't do it, is to have a plan. The plan, you don't always have to follow your plan, but have some kind of plan before you start. So I shared a document with Brianna that she'll share with you guys. I wish I had a plan or if I had some kind of guidelines before I started. So
great. But look, you've learned that lesson, and now you're sharing it with others. So how glorious is that? Well, ladies, this has been amazing. Such great insights, and I thank you all for joining us today. And next week, we actually have on Skylar Welch and Adriana Bates, and we are going to tackle how to be yourself and use your personality to build your business and your brand. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today.
You.
Wishing you a wonderful weekend.